Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. It's my honor to have you here with us today. This is a very special day. Look around the room and you will see Veterans Day, and it's very unique once every 7 years that it actually falls on our meeting Friday, so extra special in spite of the rain. We're going to get it started with our invocation. President-elect Kirk Driver, Captain with the Fort Worth Police Department, and past President Doug Briley, President and CEO of Warren Douglas Advertising, will accompany on the piano.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, first of all, to all the veterans present today. We would not be here without y'all and everyone else past, so let's pray. Holy Father, Lord, we come to you today just so thankful, so wondrous, and all the blessings that you've given us, Father. The blessing of our freedom, the blessing of our family, the blessings of our country. Father, we are just so gifted in everything, and we owe a huge debt of gratitude to those veterans present and past who've made this possible for us. Father, our founding fathers set forth unalienable rights that they knew come from you, Lord, and these veterans have defended those rights. And Father, I just lift up all of our veterans to you and ask that you pour a special blessing onto them, all of them, especially the ones that are injured and sick from the tragedies they've seen in your service and in the service of our country. Father, I thank you for this food that we're about to receive today. I thank you for this fellowship of Rotarians, friends, and families, Lord. I ask all these things in the name of your Son, Christ Jesus, for it's in his name we pray. Amen.
And now it's my honor. We have the Boy Scouts of the Longhorn Council to present the colors.
Color guard, attention. Audience, attention. Color guard, forward, march. Color guard, halt. Color guard, prepare to post the colors. Would Mr. Briley please come up and lead us in the national anthem? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we wait at the twilight's last gleaming, flash stars and bright stars through the perilous fight, what the ramparts we marched, where so careless we streaming, and the rockets that glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us the star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Color guard, post the colors. Audience, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, return to post. Color guard, about face. Color guard, forward, march. Color guard, halt. Color guard at ease, audience at ease.
Thank you very much. What gratitude we have for you young men. Wendy Shaw, Rotarian, CEO of the Longhorn Boy Scout Council, thank you for being here. And I think we have some parents and other members of the council as well. And now to welcome our visiting guests and Rotarians, past President Gary Cumby, owner of the Cumby Consultancy.
I'll ask. I don't have a list of visiting Rotarians, so let me ask, if you are a Rotarian from another club that's visiting with us today, would you stand and make your presence known? Tell us who you are. All right, then we'll proceed with the guests of our club members today. If you will, stand when I call your name, and we'll welcome each and every one of you with a rousing round of applause. Dan Calpe, guest of Ed McGlynn. Is that close? Sorry. Grace Lauder, also a guest of Ed McGlynn. Grace? All right. Guest of Bill Fairley is either Henry or Henri, I'm not sure which pronunciation. Henry? Good. Henry Nilsson. Virginia Diaz is the guest of Maria Wallman. We have Wade Birdwell, guest of Don Click. Jim Whiteholder, guest of John Latta. Heather Ramon Ayala, guest of Rachel Marker. And Annika Nelson, guest of Kathy Sheffield. We thank you all for being with us today for this special program, and we hope you come back sometime. Thanks.
And now we want to thank our sponsor, Simple Leadership Strategies, John Wright, TJ Smyers, and the rest of that team. The Simple Leadership Strategies team specializes in leadership development, team building, employee engagement, and customer retention. Their mission is to help organizations transform managers into leaders, employees into partners, work groups into teams, and customers into advocates. Those 4 foundational transformations will guide your company and team to higher levels of performance, production, retention, and happiness. Thank you again, Simple Leadership Strategies. So as we pause today to especially celebrate and recognize military values of loyalty, honor, duty, respect, sacrifice, integrity, and personal courage, it seems especially appropriate to recognize our own Rotarian Honor Code. This statement of personal and business ethics guides all that we think, say, and do. It is, of course, our 4-way test. Please join me. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And it's interesting that that usually precedes our newscast. And today is no exception. But this is our own humorous, tongue-in-cheek summation of what's happening. I'm not sure if it really complies with the 4-way test, but to do today's newscast is Mitch Reitman, principal of Reitman Consulting Group.
This is real popular around here this week. And thank you. I feel about as welcome as Kanye West and Adidas stockholders meeting. First for the weather. It's cold and rainy outside. The airports are reporting the normal delays, but at Rick's Cabaret, 2 runways have been closed. Look, I know we talked about the four-way test, and if anybody's nervous, this newscast has been approved by the Newscast Review Committee. Although the KLRAIC held an emergency meeting last night and removed it from their libraries. But not only does my newscast conform to the four-way test today, I hope it also meets the fifth test. Is it funny? I mean, I don't want to complain. I don't want to talk about people that aren't here. I want to hurt everybody's feelings. But last summer, the newscast got so boring, the Chinese government quit listening. But there is a need for a review committee because last year, a couple of newscasts were so offensive that Roseanne Barr complained. Elon Musk messaged half his workers this week and told them they were fired. Then he messaged them again and said, come back. They're not coming. They think they've been mistweeted. Twitter is set to lose $3.5 billion this year. Let me put that in perspective. That's $9 million a day. Last weekend was daylight saving time. That extra hour cost Musk $400,000. President Biden announced a joint venture with SpaceX for a rocket that can send a man to Mars. When asked for a timeline, he said, whenever Donald Trump is ready to go. In Thailand, Chamoy Thipyasu was convicted of more than 16,000 counts of fraud in a pyramid scheme that cost investors more than $200 million. The jury sentenced her to 741,902 years. Experts say that with the liberal parole orders in Thailand, she won't do half of that. In Houston, an Astros fan was arrested for throwing a can of beer at Ted Cruz this week during a World Series parade. Critics say this proves that Cruz, a Canadian, is not a real Texan. They say a real Texan would have opened the beer, drank it, and thrown back the can. In Russia, hundreds of thousands of men have left the country to avoid the draft. This is causing exotic nightclubs to close, and dating sites report over 40 women for every eligible man. There's good news, though. Vodka sales are up as the women are drinking more to try to make the few remaining men look acceptable. Kanye West has started a GoFundMe site to regain his financial status. The site is taken down. West said he's not an anti-Semite, he just has a fascination with Adolf Hitler. And Jerry Lee Lewis died at age 87 this week. Lewis married his 13-year-old cousin in 1956 while still married to another woman in what is considered the worst career move in history. When asked for comment, Kanye West said, hold my beer. NCAA football rankings are out and TCU's jumped 3 spots to number 4. But this could change as voters say they need to continue to win, which means they're not in the Big Ten or the SEC. It's a lead-in. It's November, we're headed into the holidays. Thanksgiving's November 24th, Christmas is December 25th, Kwanzaa starts on December 26th, and Hanukkah begins on December 18th. And November 4th is Bowl Selection Day, or as CCU fans call it, Passover. And finally, in 1961, the Longhorns were 8-0 and went into their game ranked number 1 against TCU. Of course, they lost 6-0, dashing their hopes for a national championship. Darrell Royal, the Longhorn coach, called TCU cockroaches. He said, it's not what they pick up and carry away, it's what they fall into and mess up. So this weekend's weather, cloudy and wet in Austin with scattered burnt orange cockroaches. Go Horns.
So we survived. We've got Boy Scouts in the room, so I'm glad that that's behind us. We have a few announcements. If I could please have Richard Knight and Carol Genovese Del Real both join me on stage in the interest of time. Richard Knight, VP and CEO, Knight Waste Services, has an announcement, followed by Carol, Director of Vincent Genovese Memorial Foundation, with an update on the Veterans Care Package delivery.
Thank you, Madam President. Am I doing this right now? Is this okay? First, I want to thank everybody that came out last night to support the Rotary event at Esperanza's between the joint chambers, the Black Chamber and the Hispanic Chamber. It was a great turnout. We had about 45 people show up out of about 60 that were registered. So thank you again for your support. I really appreciate that. Today, I'm appealing to you on behalf of the annual WRG We Care Boys and Girls Club outreach. Last year was my first year participating, and I must say I was really anxious for the first half of the evening, not knowing what to expect. Where's Greg? Back here in the corner. Okay, so Greg will tell you I was bouncing off the walls for like the first half of the evening, anticipating the opportunity to help serve these kids, right? He's telling me, chill, we got this, we got it, you got time. So by the end of the night, my Grinch-sized heart had grown 2 full sizes. I had the pleasure of chaperoning 3 well-mannered preteen boys around to the different craft stations, which allowed them to make Christmas gifts for their families. Excuse me. We did face painting, we did a photo booth, custom picture frames, made cocoa jars, Christmas ornaments, and the like. We even heard some famous carolers, some of which are in the room. Andy Taft and JR. All of this was coordinated by the various team captains that are be listed here on the screen. Everything went really well until the balloon artist decided he was tired of being creative and made everybody pirate swords. So pandemonium ensued. Imagine that, right? But in all seriousness, many of us in this room have the flexibility in their schedules to devote some time to whatever interests us. We're asking you to donate some time to these kids. It's often said that time is the most precious gift that we have because we never get it back. And when you give it freely, not only does the recipient get a gift, but you get a gift as well. So the ask for the club today is 30 to 40 volunteers to help us chaperone what we expect to be nearly 200 kids this year and show them the Christmas spirit through Rotarians in action. You never know, one of these kids might be club president one day, and your generosity may help propel them to success. In closing, to remind everybody, Wednesday, December the 7th, from 4 to 8 p.m., it's 4 hours, at 4651 Ramey Avenue. Please join me, Greg, the WRG team, and the rest of the Community Outreach Committee in giving some time for Christmas. Thank you.
Do we have the QR code for the veterans? I don't know, maybe we don't have it. Yay, okay, get your phones out and scan this with your phone. Really need volunteers. This is a pantry bag for veterans in our own Tarrant County here. This is a special gift. We're just wanting to give veterans some extra food, show them our appreciation, thank them for serving our country, and we need volunteers. Now, the great thing about this is we are doing it after our Rotary meeting next week, and there's also the board that's going to do it after that. But moving forward, the cool thing about this is you can do it on your own time whenever is convenient for you. Take a couple pantry bags and deliver it at your convenience. Anyway, I do need volunteers. Let's show the veterans that we do appreciate the service and their service to our country. Email me, scan that code, let's get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Yes, we are entering the giving season, to be sure, and we want to make sure that some of our veterans in need right here in our neighborhood are stocked up for Thanksgiving. It's also parade season. I want to let you know that we did participate in the 103rd Fort Worth Veterans Parade earlier today, and there's a few photos of the team that the rain stopped just in the nick of time. And Ryan Barrera, I'm not sure if he made it back. He was hoping to be able to make it back in time for lunch. Councilman and Rotarian Michael Crane, Crystal Galvan was with them in spirit at the last minute. She needed to stay home with a sick child. But the parade was very well attended. I had a couple videos sent to me, and we were proud to be there. Looking ahead, I've already got it reserved for next year. Next year, the parade will occur on a Saturday. And I'm not sure if you're aware, it starts at Panther Island Pavilion, and it goes just beyond Rotary Plaza before it turns around. So there's absolutely no reason that there shouldn't be a very large contingency of Rotarians either in the parade or at Rotary Plaza having a picnic. So be planning ahead. And we're hoping, I'm putting in the request now for no rain. And then there's no grass growing under our feet. Next Sunday, we are participating again in the Parade of Lights. Chief Elf and Merrymaker David Campbell was planning to be here this morning to enlist a few of you, but he was called into a meeting, so I will fill you in. Many of you, of course, have been to the parade. It starts at 6 p.m. I believe, the float needs to be there at 4 p.m. It's supposed to be chilly. I've looked at the forecast, not that I trust forecasts, but it could be, I think it said in the 20s, 30s, and up to the 50s. So we need to plan accordingly, and we're delighted to say that a former member of our club, many of you may know Julie Curtis with Wheelhouse Innovations. She has volunteered so graciously to deck out our float. And I know there's a few polar bears, and we have an Arctic thing going. She's helped us whip up what we call It's a Marshmallow World. And John Wright, our own crooner, who better to belt out the Dean Martin Christmas classics, all about snow. And we need a few more of you. We need at least two to carry the mandatory marching banner, and we can use up to another 10 or 12 merrymakers. I just have to let you know there are some minimal costume requirements. There's a little bit of expense involved, but that's it. So we need to get this organized very, very quickly because there would be components to perhaps order. So if you could please let me know today or Aurora or at your earliest convenience. And we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to seeing Andy at the parade. And now if I could have Secretary Kathy Sheffield, Chief Advancement Officer with Lena Pope. We have a few second readings.
Thank you, Sean. We have 3 second readings today. The following proposed new members were submitted during the 11/14/2022 program. If no objections are received through the voting process, the proposed member will be accepted into our club. The first proposed member is Meredith R. Haller, Associate Gift Officer, Corporation, Cook Children's Health Foundation, Classification Not-for-Profit Association. Proposer, past President Kenneth Barr. I move her election subject to attending a new member Rotary information session.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, the ayes have it, and we welcome Meredith Barr Haller to our club.
Our second proposed member is Ricky McBride, partner, Turner Stone and Company LLP, classification accounting services commercial, and the proposer is Jason Ellis. I move his election subject to attending a new member Rotary information session.
All in favor? Any opposed? Welcome Ricky McBride.
And our final proposed member today is Steve Vivanco, owner, Sustainable Signs and Graphics, classification advertising, proposer Pam Cannell, and I move his election subject to attending a new member Rotary information session.
All in favor? Any opposed? Welcome Steve Vivanco, and welcome to our 3 new members. And now we have a very special recognition as we honor and recognize some very special Rotarians. I think you're going to be as touched as I have been, looking at some of the, what you're getting ready to see. Our fellow Rotarians, friends, colleagues, are truly honored to have you as veterans among us. And to introduce this special segment is Colonel Retired Randall Fluke. He has asked that I emphasize his comments are his own, not those of the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, nor any government agency. Sir, please take the stage.
One percenters. One percenters. We've heard that before, but today I want to invite you to think about a select group of one percenters. And actually, the number is much lower. It's 0.76%. 0.76%. That represents the number of men and women, volunteers all, at the last data call in 2021 who were serving in our nation's military. Those who took the oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help me God. We're here to recognize those among us who at some point in their lifetime have taken that oath and who have been one of those one percenters in that select group. They've been the meat behind the phrase, peace through strength. And according to the latest figures that I could find, fewer than 10% of all the adults in the US, and according to the US Census, they had it at 6.4% in 2021, of the adult population in the United States have served in our nation's armed forces. And can you guess the state that's home to the most veterans? Yep, the great state of Texas. I'd like to introduce you to veterans among us here today in the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. And in order for us to do that and for us to have time for our outstanding speaker, I would ask that you please hold the applause until the end of the presentation of all of them. And veterans and all past service members, as I call your name, please stand and remain standing for the duration of the slide that Aurora has prepared in your honor. And we begin with retired Reserve Brigadier General John Avila, U.S. Army, 1966 to 2000, Assistant Deputy Commander, 49th Armored Division, service in Korea and Vietnam, awarded the Bronze Star Medal with Valor. Thank you for your service. Where are you, sir? Okay. Next, Petty Officer, Second Class Don Boren, United States Navy, 1967 to 1971, communications technician, served in Germany, Guam, and various continental U.S. locations. Thank you for your service. All right, next, Kishonda LeBryant, veteran. We don't have the information on her, but we appreciate her service as well. Next, Captain Julie Butner, U.S. Army Medical Corps, 98th General Hospital, service in Nuremberg, Germany, Operation Desert Storm. Pictured with her is that's your father and brother? Also, members of the military. Thank you for your service. Captain Fernando Costa, Corps of Engineers, U.S. Army Reserves, 1974, 1982. Engineer Officer Advanced Course, Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Thank you for your service. Captain Ken Devereaux, United States Marine Corps, hoorah. 1961, 1971, service in Panama and Vietnam. Thank you for your service. Staff Sergeant Kirk Driver, United States Marine Corps Reserves, 1986, 1993, Artillery Electronics. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your service on the front line today. Next, we have yours truly, Colonel Fluke, retired U.S. Army Reserves, 1988 to 2018. Active duty service as legal advisor, chief of staff for the Office of Military Commissions in DC and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Service at the Pentagon, military judge. Proud father photo with Major Clay Austin Fluke, the only time that we were on active duty in the same zip code at the same time. So that's a favorite picture. Next. Petty Officer Courtney Gumbleton, United States Navy, 2002, 2009. Next, Corporal Roland R. Johnson, United States Marine Corps Reserve, 1965, 1975. Thank you for your service. Next, Don Click, E5 Personnel Man, second class, United States Navy, 1969, 1973. Aircraft carriers for USS Intrepid, USS Forrestal. Thank you for your service. Next, Lieutenant John Lawton, United States Navy, 1967 to 1970. On destroyer USS Bordelon, Vietnam Combat Zone, 1967, 1968. Thank you for your service. Next, William Masterson, United States Reserves, Navy Reserves, 1988, 1994. Thank you for your service. Not present, but pictured here is Colonel Retired John Michaels, U.S. Air Force, 1971, 2002. Dean, School of Systems and Logistics, Air Force Institute of Technology, Support Officer, Thule Air Force Base, Greenland. Squadron Commander, Moody Air Force Base, Georgia. Service, Desert Storm. Thank you in absentia. Eric Niedermeyer, Texas National Guard. Thank you for your service. Next, we have John Jack Norris, United States Army. Thank you for your service. Mitch Reichman, United States Navy. Thank you for your service. Hook 'em horns. Major Betty O. Aiken Rogers, Tennessee National Guard and Air Force. No. All right, stand back up, stand back up. We have more. We have more. Okay, 1966 to 1976. During the Vietnam conflict, she served as a nurse, did 25 live patient air evacuation and rescue missions. Isn't that an awesome photo? Thank you. First Lieutenant Dick Riddell, U.S. Army, 1969, 1971, Con Thao, Vietnam, awarded Bronze Star Medal. Thank you. Major Jason Strickler, U.S. Air Force, 1994, 2014, combat pilot, Afghanistan, Iraq, Horn of Africa. Thank you for your service. Tom Sturdivant, Lieutenant Commander, United States Navy, 1955, 1957. Service included serving aboard the USS Helena, service in the Pacific, near Japan, Okinawa, Taiwan. It was a very hot time. Philippines, service on bridge, giving guidance to the ship and to the 26 sailors aboard. Thank you for your service. Captain Robert Stearns, U.S. Army Reserves. Thank you for your service. Lieutenant Colonel J. Wayne Hedge Trimmer. Call sign Hedge. I'm so jealous. 1978, 2012. Lance Corporal in the U.S. Marine Corps, then Marine Aviator, Office of Defense Cooperation and International, FMS. Thank you.
Straight though was Lance Corporal. I had no responsibility. I had Marines under me. It was a great time, year and a half.
Thank you for your service. Hoorah. Trandy Trong, I think he's visiting virtually with us today. United States Army, September 1967, September 1969, Specialist 5, Mechanical Engineer, Ordnance Corps. Thank you for your service. Estrus Tucker, United States Army, United States Air Force. Thank you for your service. Roger Yandel, U.S. Army National Guard. Thank you for your service. If there are any that I missed, we appreciate your service, whether you're listed on here or not, present or not, and we want to recognize you. Thank you for your service. There are two more groups that I want to recognize, and I can think of no better day than today to do it. First, when we talk about the tip of the spear, we typically are talking about those who are serving on the front lines in harm's way, closest to the enemy. But to have a spear, we have to have those here in Fort Worth and across our nation, making those spears, designing and building those horses that take us into battle and that bring us safely home. So if you've been part of the industry who has helped to defend this country in that way, we want to recognize you. Please stand. I thought that we might have some among us. I do know that we have some of the club. Thank you very much. Also, I would like for our Korean and Vietnam era veterans and service members to please stand at this point. Okay, because of your service and your sacrifice and the lessons learned by your blood, sweat, and scars, and those of your band of brothers and sisters who did not make it home, our military and our country's appreciation for those who serve and those who have served has been enriched. And I don't know if so at this point, I would ask everyone else to please take your glass, stand. I'm going to lead you in a toast and a slow hand salute. So you service members that I spoke up from Korea and Vietnam, that era, I don't know if you got this whenever you came home or whenever your service was done, but you should have, and I want you to get it today. Welcome home. Welcome home. Thank you for your service. Finally, on Veterans Day, I'm reminded of a speech by President Reagan. President Reagan in 1982, as he was awarding the Medal of Honor to son of Texas, Staff Sergeant Roy Benavides of Hico, Texas, said something that I want to share with you. President Reagan said the following. In his book, The Bridges of Toko Ri, novelist James Michener writes movingly of the heroes who fought in the Korean conflict. In the book's final scene, an admiral stands on the darkened bridge of his carrier, waiting for pilots he knows will never return from their mission. And as he waits, he asks in the silent darkness, where did we get such men? Almost a generation later, President Reagan continued, I asked that same question when our POWs were returned from savage captivity in Vietnam. And I summarized, where did we find such heroes. President Reagan said, we find them where we've always found them. We find them in our city streets, we find them in our villages, in our towns, in our shops, on our farms, on our ranches, and I would add to that, we find them right here in the Fort Worth Rotary Club. Thank you.
Judge Fluke, what a moving presentation, and to all of you, we are truly humbled and honored by your service. And I dare not linger for long because we've got a fabulous program coming. So Don Click, president of Don Click Realty, please help us present our speaker.
Good afternoon. It is indeed my honor and privilege to introduce our patriot and veteran, Senator Birdwell. Couple accomplishments here. Lieutenant Colonel Brian Birdwell is a native Texan, decorated military veteran, survivor of the 9/11 terrorist attack at the Pentagon, husband, father, grandfather, and lifelong conservative Republican, proudly representing the citizens of Texas State Senate District 22. Brian is a native of Fort Worth, a graduate of Lamar University, United States Army Command and General Staff College, and the University of Missouri, Kansas City, after serving in the Army for more than 20 years. He was elected to the Texas Senate in June 2010. Brian serves as chairman of the Senate Committee on Natural Resources, Economic Development, which provides the oversight for the Railroad Commission, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and the Workforce Commission. Brian is also the chairman of the Senate Committee on Border Security, which oversees the efforts to secure our southern border. Apart from these leadership positions, he serves as vice chairman of the Senate Committee on State Affairs, a member of the Senate Committee on Criminal Justice, Education, and Higher Education, and the Committee to Protect All Air Texans. It's my privilege again, Senator Birdwell.
Thank y'all, Hooah. I greatly appreciate the opportunity, the invitation, or the subpoena, as it might be, to join y'all this morning. Y'all want a moment of some warped humor with me? Is that okay? A little bit of warped humor, if that's all right? You know, I turned 61 last week, and it doesn't seem possible, you know, when Wade and I were youngsters here, and, you know, we can name all the Von Erichs. Our first train ride was the Leonard Subway, and the phases of life that we have seen. And about 10 years ago, I started getting the mailers that said, you know, do you want to join this retirement association? And about 5 years ago, I started getting the, have you thought about which Medicare supplement you want? Well, this year, I'm getting the flyers that say, would you come join us for your free lunch at an informational seminar about pre-planning your funeral? Now, Don didn't mention it in his introduction, but in surviving the Pentagon, I was horribly burned. But what I didn't read to you on here is this flyer says, have you considered the benefits of cremation? I tried cremation once, and it really sucked. Now, here's there's a sick individual at the other end of this mailer. Anyway, it says, join us for, I kid you not, this is, you can look at it. It says, join us for your free informational seminar, and this is a little place we have in Granbury, called Flames Seafood and Steakhouse. I want to find the son of a dog that sent this to me. So, now, I told you it'd be warped humor. It is a treat to join you. I know that I stand between you and getting back to work, and so I do want to share just a few things with you about the events of September 11th, but also more broadly, how we honor our veterans and why it is so important. The morning of September 11th started out as any other. I was serving as a military aide to Deputy Assistant Chief of Staff for Installation Management. That's a nice big title for chief donut getter, because lieutenant colonels in the office are just, schmoes, galley slave. You know what I'm talking about. I saw that picture of you up there. I mean, that uniform looked familiar. 98th and Nuremberg, been there, done that, that kind of thing. Desert Storm was my first war. No idea that I'd be one of the first casualties in my second war. The morning of, that morning, our general officer, General Antwerp, and our deputy, our SAS 5, my boss, Jan Minnig, who I was the aide for, had stepped out. Sandy, Cheryl, and I are taking care of the office and watching the events unfold that morning. We go into Miss Minnig's office after the first World Trade Center's been hit and turned on the TV, saw the events unfolding. Would watch the second plane, Flight 175, crash into the South Tower at nearly 600 miles an hour. I would sit down or kneel down with Sandy and Cheryl, lead a quick prayer that just said, Lord, as much as we love our first responders, you're the one that's going to be doing the bulk of the life-saving today. When that prayer was over with, we continued to watch events unfold, and about 9:35, I stepped out to go to the men's restroom. I'd had my morning Coke that morning that all of us, have to, when you hit the desk at 6:30 and you're going to be there for a good 14 hours, you got to have that jolt of caffeine, first thing in the morning. I stepped out to go to the men's restroom, told Sandy and Cheryl I'd be back momentarily, and those are the last words that I would speak to my two coworkers. I go to the men's restroom, take care of business, come out. I'm returning back to the office when Flight 77 has deliberately crashed into the Pentagon at the intersection of the fourth quarter and the E-ring. And so that you understand what a miracle it is that I'm still with you today, I brought a few slides with me, and I'll try to use my laser pointer here. If you put the first slide up, I'd greatly appreciate it. Let me step away from the microphone, and then I'll use my colonel's voice. Let me orient you real quickly, if I may. I'll use this side for just a moment. The inner circle that surrounds the Pentagon, that's the Pentagon courtyard, that's the A-ring. The outermost ring of the Pentagon is the E-ring. The spokes that connect the rings are the corridors. This is corridor 4, corridor 5, 10 corridors completely around the building. The aircraft makes penetration at the intersection of the fourth quarter and the E-ring at first and second floor level, and that's the helipad side of the building. And that's how Mel knows that that's my side of the building. She doesn't know which window's mine, but she knows that's my side. When the aircraft makes penetration, similar to, okay, good deal here. Thank you, I appreciate it. That way I can step back down here a little bit. Thank you, sir. So when the plane makes penetration at the intersection of the fourth quarter and the E-ring, the plane, when it makes penetration of the building, kind of like the top of a banana, the nose of the fuselage begins to peel back like a banana, and then the plane, the kinetic energy of 530 miles an hour and 80-ton aircraft, the plane turns inside out. So just like when you take your long sleeve shirt off and you turn the sleeve inside out as you take the shirt off, that's what's happening to the plane as it kills 184 of your fellow Americans. That number does not include the terrorists in any honor there. 125 on the aircraft, and 125 in the building and 59 in the aircraft. The plane makes deepest penetration with the C-ring, the flight data recorder. There you go. Flight data recorder will be recovered somewhere between the C and the B ring. That's why the tail makes deepest penetration of the building. That's how that analogy of the turning the sleeve inside out, the plane turns inside out, passing through the building. Next slide, please. Next slide, there you go. All right. The red X that you see on the slide delineates the impact point and the nose of the fuselage. The vertical line here is the expansion joint. That's that engineering technique that allows the building to contract and expand with the seasons in DC. Everything to the right of that vertical line is what will collapse 27 minutes after impact. Everything to the right of that line is what will crumble. The dashed circle that you see is where the left engine of the 757 makes penetration of the building. The solid circle, that's my window where my desk was located. Miss Minnig's window is right here where Sandy, Cheryl, and I were watching the events unfold up in New York. and where their remains would be recovered a couple of days after the fire's been put out. Next slide, please. This slide, again, another slide by Officer Garcia. This time it's just a few moments before the crumble of the Pentagon. You see the center impact hole is getting larger and larger as the time has passed from the time of the initial impact. As the building is burning, pieces of the building are crumbling, and eventually the hole is too big for the 3 levels of office above it to hold that weight. So it will eventually crumble. The window I'm in fact behind at time of impact is just off the screen, off the right side of the arrow. That's where I'm located, is just off the right side of the arrow at the time of impact. Next slide. This picture is the fire's been put out. The building is lit up at night. The window that I'm in fact behind in the lower right hand of the screen, the yellow circle, that's the window I'm behind, 5 to 7 yards, returning back to the office. The window that you see here on the left side, that's Miss Minig's office, the window where Sandy and Cheryl and I were watching events unfold, but I'm on the other side at the time of impact. Next slide. This picture was put together by Deputy Attorney General McNulty and the prosecution of Zacharias Moussaoui, the 20th hijacker, as he was prosecuted. It's an artist rendering of the 757 making penetration of the building at about a 45-degree angle. It shows the left side of the building and the right side of the building that did not collapse, with the center portion that does collapse, all 3 of them molded together to give you the artist rendering of the 757 making penetration of the outer facade of the building. The window that is circled to the left of the fuselage is my window where my desk was located. The window to the right of the fuselage is the window that I'm in fact behind. Next slide. And it's the last slide. So what I did is when I stepped out to go into the E-ring hallway, the hallways in the rings are in the middle of the ring. So you've got office space on the, using the top floor, you got office space to the left of the hallway and to the right of the hallway. So when I walked through the second floor hallway, I walked through what would be the impact point and what would eventually collapse, turned left to go up into the 4th quarter. This is the top of the elevator shaft that's circled at the top of the screen. That's the top of the elevator shaft. The men's restroom is next to the elevators. I came out of the men's restroom. I'm behind that window about 5 to 7 yards, just a few steps from turning right into the crash site. So I am 15 to 20 yards from an 80-ton jet coming through the building at 530 miles an hour. You don't survive that because the United States Army made me the toughest guy in that building. You survive because the toughest man to ever walk this earth 2,000 years ago still sits at the right hand of the Father and intervenes in our lives on a day-to-day basis. There was a number of challenges that I would face. I'll go ahead and set this down and use the, hope I don't have any aesthetic problems here. You want to take that real quick? Sure. This was not like one of Governor Schwarzenegger's movies where you see the flame coming down the hallway and you make a reasoned, rational attempt to escape. In fact, I heard the sound, and I always enjoy telling this to a Fort Worth crowd when Carswell used to be a big B-52 base and those B-52s would take off. If you were sitting out in the, everybody shaking heads, north-south head nod. If you were sitting in the Ridgemar Mall parking lot, when one of those things was taking off south and it looks like it's going to fall out of the sky and it's only a couple hundred feet above you, I mean, that was painful. As an artillery officer for most of my career, I've been around a lot of loud things in my life, but nothing as loud as that plane making impact with the building. It's instantaneously deafening. I thought bomb, and in the next nanosecond after thinking bomb, I am tossed around in the blast radius like a rag doll inside that hallway, set ablaze, and now begin the peril of my life. As I'm struggling to survive, I will experience 3 pains and emotions. First is the physical pain of the burns. I'm burned from fingertip to armpit on both arms, 3rd degree, completely circumferentially around both arms, fingers to armpit are grafted. My face, the eye sockets, my ears are artificial with my own skin grafted over it. My thumbs my fingers were all, they had pretty much had to put dividers between my fingers but on my thumbs, the webbing between the thumbs and the palm on both hands was burned away. And so in fact, I only had a little lobster claw, so Dr. Jordan had to go in, make an incision, pull the thumb bone out, put like a screw through the thumb and into the palm bone, and then put an elbow joint to give me something of an opposing thumb. on both hands. I've got Transite, Integra, other artificial things in my body. I'm not the $6 million man, but the 2.4. The most immediate life-threatening injury, though, is not the external burns, it's the internal. As you're breathing in that aerosolized jet fuel, the temperature of what you're breathing in, that putrid black smoke of a inefficiently burning petroleum fire, as you're breathing that in, it's like going home and sticking your head in your oven at 300 degrees and then, taking a whiff of that for a couple of minutes. That's what's happening. So the lungs are beginning to burn and blister the same way the outer body is. And so I've got liquid gathering, just like in a blister to the exterior of the body. Liquid is gathering into the lungs as my lungs are blistering. So I'm beginning a very slow process of drowning on the inside while I'm burning to death very quickly on the outside. The second pain and emotion is the one that really defines the definition of terrorism. What it's like when that panic that grabs your heart when you realize you are facing a life-threatening injury and you cannot escape what is killing you. And in those moments that I was experiencing this calamity, the Lord knits us in our mother's womb with that desire for life, that zest for living. And, the Army never trained me to surrender. And as I struggled to get up, stop, drop, and roll is irrelevant with a 3,000-gallon jet fuel fire. One moment, I'm completely in charge of my faculties, and the next moment, an earthly hell of fire, choking black smoke, the pain and the disorientation, and the absolute panic of not knowing which ways to safety, which ways to danger, as I am burning to death. I struggled to get up, trying to survive, and these were seconds, maybe a minute or two. And I came to that moment where I did what the United States Army never trained me to do. I surrendered, I quit. I stepped over that line from the desire to live on one side of that line to the other side of that line that says, okay, Lord, I got it. This is a horrible, ghastly way to be called into eternity. And I screamed out, Jesus, I'm coming to see you, in a very loud voice, surrendered, collapsed to the floor, and waited to die. And then that third pain in the motion is while I was waiting to stand before my Lord and Savior in eternity, I thought about Mel and Matt and the permanency of death and its finality, and how I'd said goodbye to them at our townhome that morning. Would be the last time I would see them until they joined me in eternity, whenever the Lord saw fit then. And there were a number of challenges that we would face that I don't want to be graphic. I don't want to be gratuitous in any way. It's a ghastly story. There are funny elements, and I'll share a little bit more with you, and then I'll close. But thinking about what it was like to know with the peace and the quiet, after having accepted my death, that the confidence of where I would spend eternity, that's that 180 degrees from the calamity of that horrible death to the peace and quiet of knowing where my eternity would be. And the painfulness of saying goodbye to a wife and a son that morning, that if I had known I was walking out that door at 5:30 to go catch a bus, and that was the last morning that I was going to see Mel and Matt, I would have said goodbye with a lot more rigor than I did that morning. There would be other challenges, and the nurses that were part of the Veterans Honor. The burn injury is ghastly. What has to be done to you medically to survive it is worse than the burn injury itself. And as I'm in that, it's called the hydrotherapy room at the Washington Hospital Center Burn Unit, I assure you it's no spa. You're being scrubbed in bleach, betadine, sometimes no anesthesia or Versed, with a tube in every orifice of my body, including a trach. Only the Lord can hear me scream in my mind. And I very clearly remember moments where I pleaded for the Lord to finish what the terrorists had started, because the pain agonies and watching my wife's emotional agony were more than I could bear, and I pleaded for death. And then a morning not too far after September 11th, my son Matt, 12 at the time, I'm wrapped like a mummy. Matt comes in with these 3 Washington Redskin players, look like Matt walked in with a group of redwood trees, but you know, I cannot speak. And Matt comes in and he's got a little ball cap on and he says, "I love you, Dad." And all I can do is mouth back to him, "I love you too, son." And in that moment, I was having my "it is finished" moment, where I was ready for the Lord. Now that I've had the opportunity to say goodbye to my son, Lord, I'm ready for you to take me now. In my 20 years of service, I've been deployed to a lot of places where a porta-john's a major home improvement. I get to talk to my fellow veterans about, how sexy it is to get your Purple Heart for coming out of the men's restroom. I was just a bit player at the Battle of the 73rd Easting, the largest tank battle since World War II and the First Gulf War. I have seen violence at its highest echelons short of nuclear war. The hardest thing you have ever asked me to do in 20 years of service is to say goodbye to my son in those conditions. I was in Korea when my grandmother passed away. I was in Japan when my uncle passed away. I was in Germany when our father passed away. The separations from family, all the things that come with military service. I want you to remember 2 things. If anything you don't remember of today's event, I want you to remember 2 things. Every scar that every veteran that stood up in here from 1775 to today and tomorrow, every scar physically, every scar emotionally, is worth the liberty and the price paid for your opportunities to live in the greatest nation on God's green earth, and you don't ever forget it. Second, there's a great quote from John Stuart Mill. He was an 18th century British philosopher. And I want to read it to you because it's really the essence of why we honor our veterans. It says, "War is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. The decayed and degraded state of moral and patriotic feelings which thinks that nothing is worth war is much worse. The person who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing which is more important than safety, is a miserable creature and has no chance of being made free unless made and kept so by the exertions of better men than him." The men and women that you saw in the slideshow, the men and women buried at every national cemetery across this nation, are the better men and women that keep us free. God bless each and every one of you. Hoo-ah, go Army, beat Navy.
Senator Birdwell, it is indeed a privilege to hear your words and the poignant recollection of a defining moment in our collective history. Thank you for being with us today. If there is a moment of levity, I'm thinking back to your moment of warped humor, and I can let you know that you fit right in. I think you'd make a great newscaster. It is a tradition of the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. We always give our speaker a parting memento. In your name, we have made a donation to the polio fund, and this is for you.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you once
Hoo-ah.
again.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir.
Hoo-ah. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the veterans that are here today, including any guests that may have been among us. We want to recognize all of you. To wrap up this meeting in a timely way, let me just simply thank once again our sponsor, Simple Leadership Strategies. The four foundational transformations will guide your company and team to higher levels of performance, production, retention, and happiness. The Finance Committee has a meeting in the Executive Suite 11, or 2, the 11th floor. Please go home, honor the vets in your life as we honor all the vets that are with us today. It is said that true heroism is remarkably sober, very undramatic. It is not the urge to surpass all others at whatever cost, but the urge to serve others at whatever cost. Enjoy your weekend. This meeting is adjourned.